Morning, everyone. Welcome to the very early morning Talking Horses. Sarah Albadwi and Andy Serling. As we kick off an 11:50 first post today of our 10-race card, and a lot of action taking place. We're showing Tampa and Oaklawn on America's Day at the Races. You and I will be on early on the show, and I don't think anybody in the Sam Davis is jumping off the page as a legitimate Derby contender. But I guess at this point, after the bomb of fierceness, it's more wide open.
And I think more taking a shot now that Locked missing that race due to a temperature. Of course, we expect to see him back still on the Derby trail.
You do? You expect to see him back? I don't.
You don't? No.
I feel that
it's not.
I hope he comes back. I don't know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I know when horses miss races, it's like in basketball. He'll be out 2 weeks. It's always 2 months. So I hope he comes back because he's good. But I'm always pessimistic about those things.
Well, that's fair. You're a little bit pessimistic.
Well, I mean, because I've been around a long time,
yeah,
and a sneeze becomes, the next thing you know, they're back in the far. I like Locked. I hope he comes back, but I'll believe when I see it.
Right. We do see a more wide open field. I think more horses taking a shot because his presence is not felt in that race, and it makes it kind of an interesting betting race because you do have a little bit more of horses that have not really shined yet as far as who they might be.
There's nobody in that race that right now looks like a remote contender, but that can change. But for me, if a horse like Agate Road's going to take a lot of money in a dirt race, I feel like you have to play, and if he beats you, he beats you.
Yeah, but we have a similar opinion about him for sure.
Yeah. Anyway, we got 10 to talk about. We'll head over to Naira Bets. If you're not a member, use the promo code MATCH200. We'll match with $200 of your initial deposit. We have $16,809 in the carryover. Pick 6 starts in race number 5 of our 10-race card.
New slate.
The more importantly, that is a fancy new slate. That looks good, actually. I like that
really
slate.
Cool.
No, that is a very sexy slate. I like that.
I like that
nice
a
job.
lot.
Nice job, guys.
Is that 3 Technique?
Wow.
I think it is.
No, that's impressive. That's a good call if you're right. Wow. All right, what do we have? We have in the middle pick 4, 2, 4, and 7 for our pick 4s on our 10-race card. Now we have the mystery one that nobody could figure out to let us know. It's a $10 bonus. You bet a $10 double in any race at Aqueduct, and if you win, you'll get an additional $10. That's okay. There you go. We also have a $20 bonus of some kind. If you hit a $25 win bet in the Sam Davis, you earn an extra 20, but you got to hit it. So you get an extra 4 to 5 on whatever course you choose to bet on. Giving you a little extra payout if you're right, and that's a Peter Brand horse. That.
Bleecker Street?
Wow, that's a good call. Feels right. Wow.
Thanks. I'll be wrong about everything else today, but as long as I have those 2 horses.
Look at the saddle cloth.
I think it's her.
No, that's a good call. It is in New York. New York, yep.
Yep.
That would be That would be the 2022. Yeah. And why don't we have market segmentation? She won it this year. We got Cross Country Pick 5, Aqueduct, 3 at Tampa, the Ozark.
It's a fun sequence.
I wish that it involved that I could bet against that Life Talk in the Suncoast. Single, the only other horse in the race.
I think it's probably purposeful that is left out.
I'm not that stupid. I'm sort of verging on it. And the show. The show is 12:30 to 6:30 today on FS2. All the action from Tampa, maybe all through the 10th at Oaklawn, probably not the last at Oaklawn. And coverage from our races, I guess, 3 through 10 here. Yeah. Race number 1. We'll show our top pick. I was going to change my pick to the 1 because it's sort of moronic for the 2 of us to pick the same horse with no chance to win in this race. But you can talk about Laser Sharp. Probably won't win, but it's my alternative to the favorite.
Eliminate's just not the kind of horse you or I want to pick on top, so this seems like the
You wanted to pick on top. I might want to pick him on top.
All right,
you can speak for yourself.
I did not. I won't speak for you. Andy was actually really dying to, and then decided not to, for my sake. But he was just green in this first race. I mean, he was lugging in a bit. And the top 2 finishers in this race put a good separation on anybody else behind them. I think maybe you could argue that if not for some of that greenness and that lugging in and that wanting to drift a bit, perhaps he gets his head down first and wins first time out. So maybe if that's corrected a little bit more maturity in the second start, he could get the job done in here. And it was a competitive number. It was a 60 Beyer speed figure for that effort, even though he is stepping up in class.
Yeah, I mean, maiden claimers are not likely to win this race. He was sort of my alternative here. I think Eliminator will probably win. The winner of Laser Sharp's last race improved 10 Beyer points, but he also did it off the claim by Linda Rice for whatever that's worth. And as far as Eliminate, he'll probably win this race. He probably doesn't want to go a mile and an eighth. His debut was a very good field. Deterministic is a horse that I think could turn out to be one of the better 3-year-olds in the country this year. So it is a good turn back. Todd Pletcher has horrendous numbers turning back with maidens. He's 7 for 45 overall with a minuscule ROI, and at NYRA he's 2 for 22. So that bothered me a little bit. I think he's going to win and pay 280 in here. I just wanted to pick somebody else, and I'm not picking a firster. I'm not taking a horse that Todd ran synthetic going 1.70 miles, now going 6.5. And I just thought I'd landed this horse, but I'll be surprised if Eliminate doesn't win.
Yeah.
But I just put him second.
Yeah, I will say too, in his first race, which was against that good company that you mentioned, I feel as though he was kind of boxed in between horses at the top of the stretch, kind of got bumped around a little bit. And that was his better race, going that shorter distance. So maybe he does improve with less distance, but the stats scared me off enough to just go in a different direction.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Race number 2. There's a horse in race number 2, and we'll take a look at when Love takes over in the second. His race 2 back. I mean, I don't know. If this horse loses, I'm just going to, I would single this horse in everything. You know, I know that there's an argument that little Skippy kind of didn't get the right kind of trip last time out, but that was a hideous field. When Love's takeover is just supposed to win this race and win it comfortably at a very short price.
I agree, and now he goes second off the claim for Ray Handel. He's back in for a tag. 2 back we're showing. He's running behind the favorite, as the favorite behind Borletti. He had a little bit of pace ahead of him that day. He's a horse that's shown in the past he can easily be forward in here if that does not materialize, so he can adapt if necessary. And he just seems like so much so the horse to beat in this spot where he's now getting that little bit of class relief. And even the third place finisher of that race, Grand, again, he returned to run second with slight improvement before winning on the 14th with a 66 Beyer. So he was a horse that was moving in the right direction as well.
Borletti came back and won 2 starts later. He had no chance last time in that race where Authorized made the big close from behind. He's a very logical horse. If he loses, it'll probably beat a little Skippy, but Little Skippy didn't get the right kind of trip last time, but that was a woefully weak field. Race number 3, well, I like the 6 Bayou Spirit, who's going to come out, and I end up scratching into the entry in this race. We want to show some of the race in Uncle George and MB's Money came out, because this was last Sunday when the rail was super, super strong. And neither of these horses were on the rail, but Uncle George had the tougher trip. He broke about 1.5 lengths slowly, and he dropped back, and he rushed up 4 wide basically the whole way around. I thought he ran well in there. My problem with him is, and I scratched into him, so he's not a horse I'm overly excited by, is number 1, he's an entry, and entries are horrific value, and the other half can win the race, and he's probably the controlling speed. But Uncle George doesn't win, and the reality is, I think we really saw it on display in yesterday's 8th and final race. David Jacobson is the most unreliable trainer, one way or another, I've ever seen in my entire life. And I've been around the racetrack a long time. You know, that almost 30-1 shot that ran extremely well that should have won the 7th race. And then the last race, that horse was kind of a layover on paper. And she didn't, I mean, it's one thing to be a layover on paper and run second.
She didn't run a step.
She got on the rail. The rail was good yesterday. I don't think it was a huge advantage, but it was good. And she just stopped like the 5/16 pole. And it is a completely and totally unreliable barn from one week to the next. And for that reason, I find playing races that he's involved in and playing horses of his, and I scratched them at a short price. They may win, but I don't have any confidence. For me, it's like the horse in the 8th race was 30-1. You want to bet him, it's fine.
Sure.
But you're talking about a horse that they're 8-5 in the line. It's a horrible gamble to me. I scratched into him and didn't really put the energy into picking somebody else.
And when you look at the other half of this entry as well, I think that Kingdom is a horse that kind of exemplifies that randomness, a horse that was outrunning his odds and showing up with some bigger than expected performances. And then when you start to catch on and think, this is who we're going to see moving forwards, he goes down to Oaklawn and he didn't run that well at all.
Well, the shipping to Oaklawn, I think it's bordering on, what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. You know, we saw that filly of his that out of absolutely
Royal
nowhere,
Megan?
ran like an 89 Beyer, Starship something.
Starship
and then went
Defiant.
down there and was an indiscriminate 5th at even money.
Right.
I have no idea. I don't know if the PPs matter for his horses, but you're right. I mean, this horse is running well, goes down to Oaklawn, is 4-1, and is awful.
Exactly.
Not necessarily going to win, but is awful.
But no, you take that race out of there and you think, okay, this is a 2 for the price of 1 entry where you can make the case for both of them. But that last effort for Kingdom, it's a random disappointment. So I think that that's just another example of what we're seeing from this trainer time and time again with these races where you start to see some form and then it's just not reliable.
His PPs are like a Jackson Pollock painting where there's just stuff. I mean, I love Jackson Pollock, but I don't particularly like the PPs, and they look like it. Talk about quick hammer.
I just wanted to go in a slightly different direction. I thought that this horse ran well last time with that 70 buyer for the tag. First off, the claim for Ray Handel on dirt with non-maidens. He does okay. He's 10 for 58, 17%, $2.47 ROI over the past 5 years. I know Capone didn't run that well the other day, but out of that race, he did return to win with a 93 buyer before not firing.
Well, he was in against, he should never have been favored yesterday. He was in a much, much tougher field, and it was a monstrous pace. He was a terrible favorite.
So
yesterday.
I don't want to hold it against him too much because he did come out of that race and run well, at least in his subsequent start.
Ray had crazy success claiming horses from Chad Summers, but it has cooled down. The numbers from Chad Summers, horses claimed from him, had been unbelievable on the dirt. But it hasn't been the case as much lately. And there was a time when I would have made this horse an automatic pick, and he certainly can win in here. But the numbers, there's been a regression of the mean, and I think that's something that gets lost on people. MB's Money ran fine last time. Coming back in 1 to 10 days, the Nota Barn is bad. They're 4 for 37 with an 88-cent ROI, so the short rest kind of bothered me. Independent Paul is a wild card here. You've left him completely out. I scratched into him for 4th. Horacio De Paz off a maiden win, coming back in the dirt. By the way, is that Horacio's is that like his
high school graduation?
I think it's like elementary school. Can we get a newer picture? I'm gonna put Chelsea on that one. We gotta find Horacio. That's hilarious. That picture.
What's around his neck, Elaine?
I don't know. It's a very geeky picture of Horacio.
Poor
He's a little geeky anyway, but
Poor
I think he's a
Horacio.
little. He's a good man.
He's watching right now, and he's ready to send us.
Let
a
me tell you, no,
selfie.
I can't abuse him as much as Christophe Clement.
Yeah,
I
that's
think when
true.
he's in race with Christophe and Christophe gives him a hard time, his happiest moment is when he beats Christophe and he can throw it in his face. Anyway, that's race number 3. We'll see what happens with the Jacobson runners. Race number 4. So we'll start with 2 a T, and I made a mistake in saying I should have set the replay when 2 a T beat Timed Out up in Saratoga. This is a mistake on my part. So we'll just go right into the timeout video after that. 2 a T is dropping down. I believe it's very unlikely. You disagree, obviously, that 2 a T or Timed Out won't win this race. 2 a T on the big drop down will probably get it done. I like Timed Out because I think she'll be a little more forward, and she didn't want to go a mile last time out. I like her cutting back. I prefer her being a little more forward, but I'll be very surprised if one of these 2 horses doesn't win. Borderline shock.
I don't disagree with that. I just wanted to go in a different direction as far as who I picked on top with a horse that I thought was kind of the horse for this level who's going to be a better price than those 2. But you're right. These are the top 2 contenders in this race. I agree with you that Timed Out is likely to be a little bit more forward than 2 a T. That day when 2 a T did defeat her, she didn't break all that quickly up at Saratoga, and there was enough pace for both of them to make their closing runs on that afternoon. But I don't necessarily know that there's going to be a ton of pace in this race. And with Swedish Sugar, she's a horse that has been more aggressively handled over her last couple of races. And sometimes when you have that horse that's cutting back in distance gradually, you don't see them in that same type of forward position when they're going the sprint distances because those paces are faster. But she's adapted well and been more forwardly placed in those sprint races. And I feel as though this is the horse for the level that I want that's been consistent as of late. She ran into a horse last time out, and I'm Buzzy, who did come back to win yesterday. Got quite the setup in there and improved her buyer speed figure. And I thought overall her last 3 races where she has been aggressively handled from the inside have been steps in the right direction, and that if you have some questions about the top 2 who are the likelier winners of this race, she is the next one.
I guess. The reality is that Manny Franco, he should ride Slack Tide the way he rode that horse that buried my Dylan Davis horse yesterday, the Robbie Davis horse, because Slack Tide can't win without the lead. And the reality is, despite what the pace projector says, Slack Tide's a faster horse early. And if Manny really wants the lead, he can go. And she's not winning this race unless she's right there, either right on top of the pace or in front. So I find it hard to believe that Slack Tide isn't going to be on her. I think Swedish Sugar's been running in inferior spots.
Over her last 2 races, she hasn't shown the same speed, and they've been a little bit more hesitant with her.
Well, she's got Manny Franco today, so I'm going to be surprised if Manny's not aggressive. He's a very aggressive rider, and she's a horse whose best races are forward. I don't like her, but I think she has to be ridden aggressively, which I thought would hurt the 1. Race number 5. Race number 5, 5 and 10 are split divisions, and it seems to happen way too often. One of them comes up significantly tougher, where all of the super live-looking firsters are in race number 5, and basically none of them are in race number 10.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I mean, you can't do anything about it. It's just a sort of randomness about it. Speaking of Horacio De Paz, why don't you talk about the horse that we both guessed with on top?
Yeah, I mean, this one has a little bit of pedigree as well. The first-time starter, Aunt Yola. This one is a half to the debut winner and Grade 1 Madison winner just one time, as well as 2 other winners. The works are decent. With first-time starters in dirt sprints over the past 5 years, he does well. He's 5 for...
Was Madison a Grade 2 when she won it?
No, it was a Grade 1 when she won it.
Okay, I'm going to have to look that up because
Yeah.
I didn't see that. Okay.
Yeah, $2.05 ROI for him over the past 5 years. When you break that out and it's 3-year-olds and up only, first-time starters in dirt sprints, 4 for 24, 17%, $4.04 ROI as they've been 8-1, 8-1, 3-1, 24-1 over the past 5 years. 10 of them finishing in the money. So this is something he does
I
well.
want to stop.
What?
That's a stat I would never use.
No?
No, because this horse is not going to be a big price near. I know David is 6-1. If this horse is live, I understand he can win it. I think that stat indicates that he can win at prices. But you got to be careful about stats with big ROIs that include a 24-1 shot, don't you?
I don't think, sure, of course, and that's why it's worth mentioning what those prices were, but I don't think she's going to be a super short price.
No, I don't think she'll be super short. I'm going to be very interested to see if
maybe?
she's 6. I don't know how they get bet. You know, David's doing his best job of guessing, and he's obviously better at guessing these than most people. But I don't know. We both picked the horse, so I don't know. I think people are going to gravitate to this horse a little bit. I mean, the other 2 horses that are going to take money, in all likelihood, Stress Reliever, because it's Chad Brown, a practical joke.
Yep.
And this horse has pedigree. It's a half to
Yep.
horse that ran okay, that ran Buyers in the 80s. The number 6 Geopolitics is going to be tough in here as well. You know, and there's some pedigree for Welcome Back Babe, the horse
Half
for
to My Boy
Dutchrow.
Tate.
Right, My Boy Tate and Charlie McCoy, and of course Snowy Evening is running now on the turf, but a bunch of horses that can't run. I don't know. I'm not big on stats that include big prices that are limited. I mean, you said, what was it, 4 for 24?
4 for 24.
Yeah, and includes a 24-1 shot. So that's $2 right there.
Okay.
You know, so those are dangerous stats to use, in my opinion. They're limited samples, and they include one result that just blew up the prices. I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
Whatever. I mean,
it's-
that's not why I would
It's not
like
the
it.
only reason, so...
Yeah, no, there's pedigree, and you know,
Right.
the horse cost a lot of money. The dam couldn't run, but they paid a lot of money for this horse.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't see a lot of run happy selling for $210,000
No.
for good reason.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not exactly the first sire that would be on my list of sires to go to if I was in the breeding business.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine, but it's just not, you know,
Yeah.
That's a different discussion. But everybody's live. You got DePaz, you got Michelle Nevin, you
Yeah.
got Mott, you got Christophe Clement, you got Chad Brown. I mean, this race looks stacked here, and so therefore a horse who has experience like City Blocks, hard to see that horse winning.
She does need to run a little bit better, but I do at least like with her, with the experience that she has progressively improved in each of her starts, getting a little bit faster in each one, and maybe she's just a horse that is taking some time to figure things out. And when you're doing all of this guesswork with the first-time starters, while a lot of them do have some good connections as well as some decent pedigrees for this level to go on, at least she has one that has perked up a little bit in each subsequent start and was running against a horse who did come back to win yesterday.
With a very good setup, it should have been favored. I get it.
If these
These
firsters
kind
are
of
live,
connections,
she needs to be faster, though.
these kind of pedigrees, the idea that there won't be 1 or 2 horses more likely to win, I would rather in a spread use the firsters. Normally I like horse with experience. In this particular case, I wouldn't use a horse like that because, I mean, this will have to be a complete and total bomb by a lot of horses that feel like they can run for the 9-horse City Blocks to win this race, it's my opinion. I would probably use 4, 6, 8 here, maybe the 5. We'll see what happens. That's the first 5. Late pick 5 after a quick break.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.
Welcome back to Talking Horses. Sarah Bodway and Andy Serling. Race number 6, where Kenny Had a Notion did not ship. No surprise. So we'll start and talk about Tommy Gun, who we both have on top. And I guess we're sort of holding our breath with this horse, who Linda claimed and drops. She's 8 for 20, 40% with a $1.94 ROI in dirt sprints, dropping 50% or more off the claim. She's better with routers. She has a positive ROI when you put the routers in. I mean, this is bizarre, right? What happened to this horse? He ran here beating me by a nose. He was in amazing form. His prior race was really strong.
Yep.
And then he comes back, he completely blows up in a race that fell apart. The rail was good that day, and now Linda's dropping in for 10. She wins with these kinds, but what happened to this horse?
She does, and I think maybe the first thing you might gravitate to as an excuse for him is that he doesn't want to go quite that far, and maybe the 7 furlongs is stretching him a bit, but to finish as
He was long gone
poorly
6 furlongs into that race.
as he did, it's not as though if this race was shorter, he would have somehow been in the picture. So I think that that's not the only reason to give him this sort of excuse. He just didn't show up. He didn't run as well as he did in the 2 starts prior last time out. But those 2 races before that one, they make him a clear-cut winner in this race. And I do feel as though now going to the Rice, she's spotting him here. Maybe this is a situation where he got to the barn, she realized that that was a poor effort, and she's trying to find a spot for him like this that he can be competitive and she can move on. But it is a strange move, you're right.
No, it's an incredible dump job of a horse that's impossible to trust. I mean, Linda isn't claiming horses for a quarter and running them back over a month later in a $28,000 race where even if she wins the race, she's going to lose money on this horse. So this is a serious question. And I've got the horse on top. I probably should have gone 8-5 in here, the more I think about it, because I do have an idea, because obviously Quick Flash is fine, and he's probably the logical other horse in this race. But I think Charlie 5-0 is a little bit dangerous. Cutting back in distance. He's been running against tougher horses in his races, went to Parks and a muddy sealed track. Listen, his form may have left him, but at least unlike the 5, he's going to be a fair price in here. And he's also a horse that's run at lower level races before, so it's not as though he's a stranger to this group. I don't trust him at all, but he would be my other horse in here. I mean, so, listen, Tommy Gun may win this race by 5 lengths, but when he stops at the 5/16 pole, are you going to be shocked?
No, I won't. I would not be shocked with either outcome. Either he opens up and wins decisively, or he just doesn't show up. I think that you can easily see either occurring.
And Quick Flash is a terrible other horse.
Exactly, because he's not going to be a good enough price.
He's also 3 for 41 with 11 seconds and 7 thirds. Mm-hmm. So 18 out of 41 races, he's been second and third with only 3 wins. He ain't exactly a great backup if you're looking for some alternative. So I'd rather take somebody who actually might be able to finish first in a race occasionally. And at least that was Charlie 5-0, who also may not be able to run at all anymore. Race number 7, I don't have anything clever to say in race number 7. We'll take a look at Big Saves last race, where Trevor McCarthy just did what he rarely does, which is go up a dead rail. And he was badly compromised by that effort, and my feeling is if he runs back to this race, he'll win. And there was just nobody else that I wanted in here.
Yeah, I mean, this is a situation where he's easily the horse to beat. I think that a couple of starts ago when he was that post 12 and caught up with some other pace in that race, it compromised him a bit. This was a situation where, as you said, he's not on the right part of the racetrack in here, and Trevor McCarthy is a rider that is usually so bias aware, so this might have just been a situation where he ended up.
He had no choice.
Right, exactly. So it's not something you can hold against him, like he was making that choice on purpose. With Ski Patrol in here, I thought he was in tough 2 back on that sloppy sealed surface on the 10th of December. Then second at the mile last time out behind Coffre, who was a horse that got bet significantly and was forward in there. I don't love the Boyded Claim, but I do like seeing that he's going to 7 furlongs, because I think that might be that good middle distance for him where he's not getting too far back in sprint distances where he needs that kind of pace setup to close into, versus the mile last time. He got himself a little bit more in the game and a little bit closer. So maybe at the 7, he can get himself into a better position going forwards. But as you said, I don't love the Boyded Claim last time.
He's also not a winning type.
No, he's
with
not.
The 5 seconds, a lot of short prices.
He's not even necessarily a dirt horse.
Right, he's never won on dry dirt before. He can win. I'll be interested to see. I mean, David's obviously, on the fence as who he thinks will be favored. I thought Big Save would be favored. If he's not, I particularly like him. I think Disappearance is a little bit interesting, getting the switch to Romero Mirage. It's funny. I saw Oscar Barrera yesterday, and he said to me, I'm going to have to pick some of my horses. I need to have a winner. Good news for all trainers and connections. Your horses don't win or lose whether I pick them or pick against them. They got to do it on their own, well or badly. Usually when I pick them, they lose. But I know he's not that good, but he's cutting back a little bit from a mile. He's meeting a softer bunch than he's been facing. And I don't love this horse, but I thought he was a little bit interesting getting the rider change. And I was just hunting and pecking through here because I didn't want to pick at 4-5 or 5-4. And not knocking you. They are the two most logical
No, that's
horses.
fair, though. You
I
wanna
just
find
wanted
something
somebody else at a slightly bigger price. So I'm going to use a little disappearance here as well. He's my alternative.
The lack of early speed bothers me, but if he runs his race
I agree.
3-back or 4-back, he's right there and involved.
I'm hoping Romero can get him a little more close, but I 100% agree with you. If he had a little more speed, I would like him a lot more.
What about Street Cop Officer? You don't have him anywhere, but isn't he getting a little bit of class relief? I don't know that he can do much running.
He is. He's getting a lot of class relief, but he's been pitiful. I mean, I looked at him, and it's fine that you used him. I gave him a long look in here because of the drop, but I don't know. I mean,
he's just been bad, and I had some interest in him at those tougher levels coming in, and he's just been a disappointment. So maybe he wakes up with the drop in class in here towards the outside, but he'll need to run quite a bit better.
If you've got an idea in any race, but this one in particular at a price, I can't blame you because I don't think either the 4 or 5 are particularly appealing at short prices. They're just the two most logical horses. Race number 8, I've decided to do my friend Reserve Currency a favor and not pick him on top because I do have some mad love for him and I think he's very dangerous with the fast pace in here. But I decided to go against him. And we'll look at Silo Ridge and Certified Loverboy's last race. And the reality is, and I forgot to text Lee Eiseiler back yesterday, who said he was bringing sandwiches. But I thought he ran terrific last time.
He did, and I remember you were kind of...
I was against him. No, I was dead wrong about him.
Not really sure he was going to back up that second to digitize, but didn't he make really 2 moves in this race? He was inside of Mama's Gold, pressing that pace, backed off, Mama's Gold was fading, Certified Loverboy got started ahead of him, made the move before he did, and then he makes this other move to get second in this race. So I felt as though he was kind of running every step of the way throughout that race, and I know he only got an 80 buyer. We're still waiting to see that 88 that he got when he was second to digitize at Saratoga, but I feel like he was exerting effort throughout the entire running of that race and really was very game to come again, sort of, even though he was hanging on that inside.
I have no argument with it. I think he's way the horse to beat in this race. I do. I hate entries. It's why I didn't pick Reserve Currency. Not that the other half, and that was him, expected value was closing in there for 4th in the race we saw. Reserve Currency was a huge gallop out. If you like gallop outs, he's your guy. And I've kind of always liked this horse, and I think he could be coming to his own. He can win. I just didn't want to pick him at a short price. And I think at similar short prices at Silo Ridge is a little more likely, is a little bit better bet. 2 friends of mine, I hope one of them wins, but I'm picking against both of them. And I hope American Law wins. And I'm not overly confident with American Law, but I like him cutting back from a mile and 1/8. He engaged with Suerte last time. I don't think he ran that badly in there. I thought his prior effort was good enough to give him a real chance in here. And when I was first looking at him, I was thinking, well, maybe he caught the right spots and he's unreliable. But if you go on him, he's got go-back races that are fast enough to win here. So it's not like his last 2 races. These races came out of nowhere, and this is his win 2 races back we're taking a look at. I thought he was a little interesting, looking for a bit of a price. And while I think the 9 and the 1A are absolutely the likeliest winners of this race, I didn't think he was that far off them that I minded picking him on top. That's what's going to be 8-1 or 10-1 as David has him. So I put him on top, but he's going to have to beat the 9-1.
Well, I think Luis Saez in that race 2 back that we watched really adapted well to how the racetrack was playing that day and got him into position by the top of the stretch, because that was a day where I feel like you needed to be a little bit more forward.
He needed to be on the rail, and he was wide.
More towards the inside. But I think that was an example of getting him into at least some sort of position where he would have an opportunity, because he was a horse that before that he was coming from further off the pace and sort of making up that closing ground in the stretch rather than already being close to the lead at the top of the stretch. And then I agree, just too far last time and not really where he wants to be.
I'm going to disagree with that.
What?
I mean, because 2 races and 3 races before, he was right on top of the pace the whole way. So I'm not sure I agree with that assessment. I mean, it's just not true. I mean, the prior race, he was at 4th, 3.5 lengths behind, but before that, and 2 and 3 back, he was right on top of the pace. Regardless, he was a little against the track when he won that day, being outside. I just thought he was an alternative. Anybody else in here we should talk about? Certified Lover Boys
I
improved?
mean, I wish, I mean, he made that first move last time. Maybe it was a little bit early, but and then kind of flattened out a bit. But I thought he ran well in that race that Silo Ridge comes out of. I guess I wish Lucency was maybe a little bit better. But I think that he's one that might take some money in here that I just want to see more from.
Heroes Medal won yesterday. Bolt Plata didn't run that badly in running 4th in there, or 3rd in there.
Yeah.
Certified Lover Boy name for Ray? Ray, is this source name for you? Race number 9, the Heavenly Prize Invitational. I had so much love for Heavenly Prize. And Saddle Up Jessie is just way the horse to beat in this year. She's in terrific form. The cut back to the mile, I'll let you talk about her, picked her, but she's just the horse to beat.
I liked her a little bit last time in this race, the ladies, where she ended up finishing second to Comparative. And I think that when I first looked at this race, I kind of judged the ride as being perhaps a little bit overconfident. It seemed like she was going to cruise right on by Comparative. It seemed like she was loaded at the top of the stretch, and then Comparative just kept digging back in. But with Comparative returning to win the Grade 3 Bayakoa over at Oaklawn with a similar Beyer speed figure, going from this 89 to an 88, I feel like I have more respect for that effort, and perhaps she was just running into a really good horse, and it wasn't a matter of the overconfidence in the ride. She just didn't quite have it.
So do we think Sheldon Russell, who's Brittany Russell's husband, has a lot of business down at Laurel, where she said, Sheldon, you got badly outfinished by Manny Franco last time, and I hate to break the news to you. Maybe Mike Ryan said that, but we're going to get Manny to ride this horse this time.
I can't say I mind it.
There is a bit of irony that, I mean, with all due respect, it did really feel like Manny outfinished him last time.
It did.
And she
And
came
maybe
back.
I was too critical because of how it looked at first glance, but I will say at least Comparative did come back with a big effort.
She did. Well, she got lucky because the other speed got completely left in her
Yes.
next race
Yeah.
at Oaklawn.
Hot
But
and
still,
sultry,
right?
right?
But at
Yep.
least she showed that she was legit. I have nothing against her. I didn't want to pick her on top as a favorite, and I'm kind of married to picking Portage. We'll take a look at Portage 2 races back. I think it's an effort that has a chance to beat the favorite because she ran so well, and she could be the controlling speed in here, and she's just not really a sprinter type. And both times she's tried to go the 6, she kind of lost contact early and made a sort of meaningless late run. But you look at her last race, and you almost get a feeling, like Linda said, I want to get a race into this horse, like a 2-workout race to run her back. And Linda's got excellent numbers. We'll show you in 1 to 10 day layoffs in the dirt. Tremendous stats will actually show you. And I think Portage, she runs back to this race. She is the one legitimate threat, against Saddle Up Jessie. And Linda's numbers, I mean, those are scary
Tremendous.
good numbers, right? You know, that's almost 30%, 271 ROI. These are horses that are winning. They're paying $9. They're not horses that are winning and paying $5. And it's a big sample size. So that was interesting. Movie Moxie, I don't think is impossible in here. I always root for Movie Moxie. And we'll show her win over Gerrymander. The problem is, do we really trust this 93 Beyer? But she does have the 88 4-back, and she feels like if she runs her A race, she can win. But you almost wonder, did she catch lightning in a bottle and is she turning back into a pumpkin?
And will she really be running this kind of a race? Because we saw her come back off a little bit of a break last time
She stunk.
on December 1st, and she regressed significantly from what we saw back here in this 93
Was a
Beyer
long
speed
layoff,
figure
though.
effort. I know, but Linda Rice's horses, they usually do come back ready to fire. So I feel as though you maybe expected a little bit better, and Hot Fudge, obviously the winner of that race, is pretty good. But at the same time, you kind of wanted to see perhaps a little bit more. But you're right, if she gets back to some of those races she had in the past, she could be a player. It was more just that she will also be a horse that's coming from off the pace, and we both think that Portage figures to be forward and not really pressed too significantly, though Cairo Sugar, I guess, does have some speed to her inside.
Not according to the pace projector, but we'll see how that plays out. But it does feel like she has some speed. I prefer Portage. I don't think that Movie Moxie is impossible in here. Anybody else wins this race, and the odds reflect it. I'll be surprised. I don't know about you.
I guess Spiked is interesting. I don't think that she's a win candidate, but it is interesting that she does come back here. And
She was scratched recently, right?
she was. And Terra Nova off 180 plus days. He does well. He's 12 for 48, 25%, $2.62 ROI. So they come back ready to go. And I think that she is perhaps an interesting horse to maybe use underneath, and then next time might be her time.
If you break it down, 180 days to 360 days, so effectively 6 to 12 months. The barn is 8 for 27, 30% with a 352 ROI. And if you look at just routes, they're 2 for 4 with 3 hitting the board and an $8 ROI. So they're coming back and their horses do run well fresh, I agree. This is a very ambitious spot, but maybe it's an indication suggesting that she's doing very well, but she still would have to run much better than she's ever run, which is a tough
Right.
thing to do in this situation. But
She doesn't have a race back on the page that's so much faster to put her into contention.
Just that one that's
She has that 183, 84.
she doesn't have a single
fire.
race that makes her a major contender.
Right.
That's the problem.
Right.
Race number 10. We'll start by showing Elite Status, who you have on top in this race, in their last race. And this was a $500,000 maiden optional claimer at best.
Yeah, this was a slow race. Just, it is what it is, and this was a situation where she didn't earn a high buyer speed figure for this third place finish. I mean, she was training forwardly coming into that effort. She was 20 to 1 in there, and she ran a decent third, but she's finishing well ahead of a horse like Book of Wisdom. She didn't have enough late to finish second to a horse that had some trouble in there, Walk With Me. This is just a spot where we were talking about it earlier. You have some of those seemingly live firsters all in that fifth race, and this is a field that I didn't feel was quite as tough as that one looks at paper whatsoever.
Not on paper, this race is a maiden claimer compared to the other one. I agree, it feels like a lot of strength. I mean, in theory, there may be 2 or 3 in that race easily that could have won, or maybe even more in here. I agree. I mean, I guess, the David Duggan firster, but it's really more of a turf pedigree on that horse as well. I took Dolce Veloce, a horse that obviously they loved this horse and turned into a massive disappointment for the connections and got claimed last time. But I'm just going to take Jeremiah off the claim and hope he can improve this horse. He has very few stats. He is he's only 0 for 4 off the claim with maidens on the dirt. So it's not like he does it a lot. I just thought this horse has run fast enough relative to these. People might look and say, oh, he's cheap. I don't know that she's cheap. I don't know if it really matters because she's not any slower on her recent races than Book of Wisdom, who's had too many chances for me and burned too much money in Elite Status. And maybe Dolce Veloce is a horse that'll just benefit from a barn chain.
Yeah, it's possible. And you're right, it's not a move he does often. He doesn't have anyone showing on DRF Formulator first off the claim and first time blinkers within that sample of making those moves. So perhaps he's something in this horse, and you're right, she's just not that much slower than anybody else.
Yeah, and I really don't know where else to go. I mean, the horse to beat is Apollonia C, I
Off
think.
that last race, yeah.
Yeah, she ran well last time. There's nothing wrong with her last race. Thought she's a very, very logical horse off her last race. I would use 4, 5, 6 in here, but I'm going to bet on Dolce Veloce.
Okay.
All right. Oh, I got a call.
Ooh.
Let's see if it's Mark Hennig.
Is it about the sandwiches?
It's Mark Hennig checking in. No, it's not the sandwiches. Mark Hennig never brings me sandwich. Oh, he wants to know what buyer Gunsong got yesterday. I did not look it up, Mark. I'll look it up, though. She won. Gunsong on the horse
Yes,
that was
yep,
second
yep.
to,
Leslie's Rose?
despite
Is
having
that her name?
apparently a much tougher, easier trip, according to somebody I disagreed with. Yeah, she beat Catherine Wheel.
Oh, yes. Yep. That Chad Brown horse.
Expensive horse
Yep.
that Chad has, yeah. I'll have to look that up for Mark. I'll look it up for you, Mark, when I get back to my office. We are done. Thank you, Sarah. Sarah and I will be back together on the set in America's Day at the Races and 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. Head over to Naira Bets. No better time than the present. Use the promo code MATCH200. Go to NairaBets.com. We will match $200 of your initial deposit. We have a $16,809 carryover and a swanky new slate as well.
It's beautiful.
Yes. Very, very impressed that you picked up that that's 3 technique. I hope you're right, because you're wrong.
Isn't he winning that race at Belmont?
Well, he would be winning the Jan Nehru.
Yeah. He was the 2. He has the little blaze. Came from off the pace.
No, I like that.
I think that's true.
That's a very, very.
And if it's not, I don't care.
It's a very good call. You're probably right. And then we'll go to what's her name, Bleecker Street. Is this her? No, she lost the Diana and then ran again, right?
I think you're right.
You can roll it, guys.
Yeah.
Middle pick 4, 2, 4, and 7 for the pick 4s.
Doesn't get a new slate though.
We've got
Same old, same
the
old.
$10 double slate. Team of scientists will be working on this. This is actually
In the lab.
what Albert Einstein said to Robert Oppenheimer. If you saw the movie Oppenheimer, this is what he was actually explaining this bet to him when the Robert Downey Jr. character got all upset. Bet a $10 double on any race at Aqueduct and get $10 on your winning tickets. We also have a $20 bonus. You bet 25 to win the Sam Davis and your
There's
horse wins,
Bleecker
you get an extra $20. And that is Irad on, that's Bleecker Street.
That's Bleecker Street, yes.
Apparently a filly winning a turf race for a dirt race. Cross country pick 5 stakes. Aqueduct and Oaklawn, bookending Tampa. We're showing Tampa all day today. Lee just checked in with the sandwiches.
Oh, good. That's what I've been waiting for.
It's a lot of sandwiches. A lot of sandwiches. Should I tell him I'm coming to see him?
Tell him I'm coming to see him.
What else do we have?
The show. You and I are spending a lot of quality time together today.
Well, we're spending a lot of time together. Whether or not it ends up being quality remains to be seen. But if you want to find out if it turns out to be quality time, I would tune in.
It's
at
always
least
quality for me,
from 12:30
Andy.
to 3:15ish, and
All my time with you is quality
we had a
time.
very nice lunch the other day.
We did,
Yes,
yeah.
it was very nice.
Yeah.
And
That broccoli was really good. That
the
you
bro-
were.
I told you
you're
the
a big
broccoli
fan
with the
of,
with
yep.
the pomegranates.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
very
It's a good combo
It
that I
is,
would have
and-
never thought to put together.
No, it's one of my favorites. Anyway, we're done. But everybody else getting started here, including Chris Griffin. He'll be up very soon with a reprise, Scratch and Changes. Have a great day. The Big A.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.